not all organic traffic to your website is thanks to SEO, and paid ads does cannibalize a lot of your organic traffic. I have seen very rarely companies that are actually measuring their traffic quality in the right way, taking those two very important points into account. And today I'm going to share with you how you can have a better setup with the Google Search Query Console. What is Google Search Query Console? Google Search Query Console allows you to see the queries that land on your website, all those impressions. So the user types something and then you can see the page with all the link. So that's an impression, and then if the user clicks on your website, that's a click. Google Search Console allows you to have that information. Here are the very important information you can have. You can have the date, you can have the query, you can have the landing page, you can have the clicks, the impression, and very importantly, the position, because the higher up you're in the position, the higher is your click-through rate. Now, there are three ways to get that information. The first one is through the website. It's the Google Search UI. Now, the problem is that you have a 1,000 row limitation, and so when you start to work with days, specific queries is not working very well. So imagine, for example, if you want to group all your branded query into one, you'll have to group a lot of queries together because of all the misspelling issues, and that's something you won't be able to do with the UI. And there's a lot of other things that you really want to do that I'm going to explain that you can't do with the UI, but that's the easier option. Then you have the API. So the API is great. You can have a lot of data if you download it daily. We do that all the time. Now, it is still slightly bit sampled, and the second best solution is the BigQuery. So BigQuery, you're going to have all your data into your data set, and so there's no sampling at all. Now, the problem with BigQuery is that we can't backfill, and so it will only start to gather data at the moment you set it up. So what I always do with clients is that I set it up as fast as possible, and then I use the API for the next 6 months. And that works absolutely fine because I explained the API already has a ton of information. In terms of ton of information, for example, recently I pulled the data for the client. It was about 20 million rows for the last 16 months. And so yes, definitely another thing that will be a limitation is that Excel is limited to 1 million rows. And so you'll need better tools than that, such as Python. Now, let's go to the meat. I said earlier, not all organic traffic is due to SEO. So the first thing I really want to point on the SEO side is that you have to split SEO performance in two ways. You have to have the capture, and then you have to have the conversion side. If you just try to allocate the revenue, grouping the capture and the conversion side together is not going to work very well. The reason is, for example, a brand query. A brand query doesn't come to your website thanks to SEO, but can be converted thanks to SEO. And this is why it's very important to the difference between capture and conversion when you're evaluating your SEO campaign. And this is why assigning pipeline to your SEO traffic is usually wrong, because people don't do that split. Now, let's go back to the capture. So organic branded keyword is not coming to your website thanks to SEO. The person heard about the company elsewhere. And so the first thing you can do with the Google Search Console is that you can evaluate the traffic that is coming through branded query. And usually it's about a third to 50% of your traffic coming to your brand company, and sometimes even higher. For example, if you do a lot of LinkedIn content online, and most of your traffic on your website will be branded keyword. So that's the first thing you can do, is that you can group the branded and non-branded keyword. One thing you can't do with the UI is having all the misspelling and the different way people will write down your company name. And so when you have all the data, you can quickly create a group and create two group, brand and non-brand. And what you can see is a trend overall. This is very important because, for example, you can start to spot if somebody is bidding on your brand keyword. For example, if you suddenly see a drop in your brand keyword, if you see a brand in non-brand search, then you can deep dive later on. I'm going to explain that into those specific keywords to understand what's happening. Usually it's because some companies are bidding more on some specific keyword, and so your position is going down, but we can cover this later. That's the first point that you want to do, being able to split the brand and the non-brand. Once you've got the brand and the non-brand, you can start to do some cannibalization analysis. So your Google search teams are bidding on branded and non-branded keywords. And so the big main cannibalization issue that organic traffic has is that those paid branded keywords are cannibalizing that traffic. And so it makes free traffic, paid traffic, which increase the cost per acquisition. And so that's the first thing you want to look into. And then once you have the data all together, you'll be able to start to run some pre-post tests and see what is the real incremental traffic of your branded campaigns. Now, you can do the same with non-brand keywords too. You can observe that your non-brand paid search campaign cannibalize the non-brand traffic that your organic traffic is creating. Very usually what I've seen a lot is that the paid search team are going to see about all the queries that are typed into Google and they'll start to bid on them. But that is, again, diminishing the performance of SEO as a capture tool, because paid ads would always be prioritized over organic in the list. Now, what you can do also, which is very interesting, is that you can start to run correlation analysis between your branded keyword that lands on your website and your initiative elsewhere. And that's where you can start to connect the dots. If you look at the performance, you will see that most of your demos, like last actions, happen on direct traffic and on search brand and on organic search. So now what is great is that once you know the exact performance of a brand on SEO, you'll be able to run some correlation analysis with it. And so for example, you'll be able to run your search impression that you have on LinkedIn, correlate it with your brand search, and you'll be able to see the relationship and start to understand what portion of that brand is coming from those LinkedIn. If you have an event, you can look and see if you have a sudden jump in brand traffic, and then you know that this jump in brand traffic is from that event. And so you can connect back the dots, understanding what is the contribution of those upper funnel traffic to the lower funnel traffic. And so these are all the great things you can do with Google Search Query. So don't hesitate a minute more, implement the BigQuery in the Google Search Console and start pulling the data from the API. It's an extremely simple process. I can help you on this if you want. Have a good day.